some of the very basic things that we need to do. So the tutorial is wonderful, simple. It doesn't take a long time, but it gives you the rudimentary things you may feel that you are not getting perhaps tonight. We wanted to change the way we formatted our training this time because we want to give all of us an opportunity to share our experience. So much of what we learn from one another. Mentoring is a huge aspect of Toastmasters. And much of the skills, the tips, the tools we get are from people who have served in the same office that we are currently serving in. So we want to get time to share that experience with you. And we have an expert panel that's going to be doing that with us tonight. The other thing that we're going to be doing tonight is focusing on a particular theme. Now, every week we've had a different theme. The first week we talked about engaging members, having those great meetings that bring members and keep members in our club involved and active. The second session last week was all about extending our membership, finding new members and keeping our club vital by creating that diversity that we need, bringing in the new blood, making sure we have interest. How do you go about doing that? What are some ways we can do that? And tonight, we're going to talk about specifically all of you, how you work together as what we call the Club Executive Committee. Now, the Club Executive Committee consists of every single one of the officer positions and the immediate past president, who acts as an advisory capacity. So all of those people are really important for you. You do not get elected to serve by yourself. Now, I see by the list of experience, we have about 13% of our members have been in their position less than a year, while we have about 25% who have been 2 to 5 years, and another 20% or 22% even over 10 years or 5 years. That's a lot of experience. You can see that we're sort of almost evenly divided across the various aspects of this particular poll. So I am really happy to see this expertise because it's going to make our job as panelists and in our breakout rooms much more simple. I want to let you know that tonight, I think those of you who've been in 10 years or longer, you probably think you know what you're doing, and you probably do. You probably can do a really good job. But I always like to say, you know what, if you are approaching this job or you got elected to a position and you have not challenged yourself, then what are the chances that you're going to grow and expand your leadership skills this year? Probably not that great. If you keep doing the same thing you've been doing year after year, even though it's working, that's really good, then you're just going to find, very much like your club, if it does the same thing meeting after meeting, it's going to get a little boring. It's not going to be exciting. Even though sometimes taking that little risk to try something new adds that bit of excitement, maybe nervousness, whatever you want to call it, it's really important to challenge your leadership skills. So I hope that all of you started this term serving in your office with some idea of how you wanted to grow. How do you want to grow this year? What skill do you want to learn? Perhaps you want to learn more about team management, or perhaps you want to learn more about program aspects. Motivation and inspiration is a really big part of leadership. How are you going? What do you want to motivate and inspire your members to do? All of you as officers need to work together, and you come together as your club executive committee. And each officer, I suggest, should always start with what their personal goal is going to be for this year. What is it that you would like to accomplish in your particular office? How would you like to make your club better? Do you want to work on retaining more of your members? Do you want on building new members? And I know we all want all of those things, but provide some focus. Think about what it is you would like to really target and try. I suggest you pick something that's maybe not so easy for you, just so you get that experience, that challenge to try to overcome. Maybe you have to have some experience in how to work with difficult people. May not be a lot of people, but there may be one or two that you need to practice with. It's a skill that we all need as leaders. There are two tools that Toastmasters provides to us that help us in our leadership role. The first one is called the Distinguished Club Program. Now I know, go ahead, raise your hand. How many have heard of Distinguished Club Program, DCP? Sometimes we talk about it too much. People think all they want us to do is get points, DCP points. Well, that's not really true. We don't really care if you get the points or you don't get the points. We want you to look at the Distinguished Club Program as a measurement tool, because Toastmasters International has done a great job of investigating and researching all aspects of club meetings to determine what makes people join and stay in Toastmasters. What are those things that are important? And those are the measurement aspects of the Distinguished Club Program. How much people participate in the educational program pathways? Are they achieving their personal goals? Are the leaders getting trained so they can do the best job they can? Is the club maintaining good administration so they can report to their club how well they're doing? It's really important that you be aware as club officers of the measurement tools in the Distinguished Club Program, but we're not saying, hey, do that above all else. That just is an indication that you're doing things right. The more DCP points you get, probably the stronger your club is. And the other tool that's available to you is called the Club Success Plan. I get questions every year about, I don't know, people keep talking about this Club Success Plan. I've never seen one. It is a tool that's available, and it really is the first tool that you as the club executive committee might want to look at the beginning of the year. It's actually a formula. It's a form, and it can be very long, or you can make it abbreviated, but it gives you things to think about. And it's divided into the various arenas of responsibility for each of the officer roles. So this will help you think about the goals you want to accomplish this year, and also talk with your team about the goals you want as a group to focus on. That's the club success plan. You do it for yourself. You do it for your club. You don't have to turn it in anywhere. We don't have Toastmaster police that are coming to arrest you if you don't have it done. But it really is a wonderful tool to help you think about the progress your club is making and where you want to go. So fellow Toastmasters, are you ready to get started tonight? I bet you are. Let me explain a couple of things. We're going to start with an expert panel, and they're going to field some questions and talk about some general things that are going to really help us. We'll then be going into breakout rooms, and in the breakout rooms, you have been randomly assigned to breakout rooms. Don't look for a breakout room that has all sergeant at arms or all club vice presidents of education. That's not going to happen. We're going to be randomly assigning you to rooms because we want you to work together with an understanding of how your role touches each of the other roles, the other club officer roles. So I think I've given you a fair shake, again, remembering to rename yourself. Sue, do we have any issues right now before we get started?
Yes, I have quite a few. We have 3 iPhones. I have absolutely no idea who iPhone, and iPhone are. I've sent you a few emails, but the biggest one is iPhone. We can't even know a first or last name.
So iPhones, if you're out there, we need you to put into the chat your name. If you can't rename yourself, just put it in the chat and Sue will rename it for you so we can make sure you get the credit that you want for attending this class. All right, any other things to think of? Are we good with that? Tonight, fellow Toastmasters, club leaders, we have a wonderful moderator for our expert panel, and she's going to introduce that panel to you. It is with great pleasure that I want to introduce and welcome as our panel moderator tonight, our District 84 Program Quality Director. Oh, no, that's wrong. That's not now. I want to introduce, that's me, by the way. I want to introduce our Club Growth Director, Toastmaster Felicia Shorter. Welcome, Felicia.
Thank you, Toastmaster Vicky, your Program Quality Director. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. We are going to have an excellent panel. You're going to start to see their faces appear on your screen. We want to spotlight them. You will see Andy Seapaw is spotlighted. We have George Hazard, Julie Salgo, Marie Loeffler, Nick Patterson, and I'm missing one more. There we are. Bobby Blackman. Although you see Walter, that is Bobby Blackman. Our panelists have been studying for years for this panel. They have practiced by taking on officer roles. They have practiced by helping others get into officer roles. And today they are here to help you expand your knowledge on your officer position, but also your executive committee and how that committee can lead to building membership. Panelists, are we ready? Just raise your hands. Awesome. We also have our district director who is brave enough to be our timer tonight. She will be giving us timing cues to keep us all on pace so that you can maximize your experience and hear from all of our panelists. So today we're going to start with some basics. Some of our panelists are going to tell you all about a specific officer role. Now, this is a true table topics. They are going to tell you about their role in 60 seconds. Can they do it? I believe they can. Are we ready, panelists? Let's see. We want to hear all about the Sergeant at Arms. And this is going to be presented by Toastmaster Bobby Blackman. Tell us about the Sergeant at Arms position.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. The Sergeant of Arms position is an extremely important role, as they all are. Some of the main responsibilities and duties are, if you're speaking of an in-person, face-to-face meeting, to get to the meeting early, to make sure that the room is properly and appropriately arranged, and all of the accoutrements, if you will, such as ribbons, tags, what have you, whatever the club, and everything is specific to the club, is available. Also, it is the Sergeant at Arms, responsibility to open the meeting, to get the meeting started. Now, with certain clubs, it may be a little different. Again, that's when you want to consult with your past Sergeant of Arms or officers to see what the culture is for that particular club and how that's done. It is also the Sergeant of Arms position or responsibility to get the room back the way it is supposed to be, the way it was after the meeting, and of course, before and after the meeting, greeting members, new guests, but also members as well. These are some of the main responsibilities of the Sergeant of Arms, also in keeping up with all equipment. Again, these are some of the main responsibilities. However, I'm sure we'll be discussing others as we go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. That was well put. I might sign up to be a Sergeant at Arms in the future. You made it sound so easy to do. So Marie, I know that there's this position called treasurer. Do you have any experience with the treasurer, and what do they do?
Thank you, Felicia, and good evening, everybody. The treasurer's position has one of the shortest lists of responsibilities, but it is definitely one of the more powerful positions, if you will, because the treasurer is in charge of the club's money. Needing to keep track of the money that is in the bank account, as well as your gift certificates, all those awards that you earn from District 84. Also, most importantly, you need to know the financial institution that the club uses. Be familiar with it. I suggest going to that institution and meeting people there so that if there is a problem, it is easily fixed. You want to have a credit card or a debit card connected to that institution so you can easily transact any kind of things that you need to transact. And most importantly, you need to be able to submit those dues to Toastmasters International at every renewal period right on time. Thank you, Felicia.
Awesome, Marie. Thank you very much. I like the treasurer position. I haven't served in that, but I'm looking forward to being captured for that soon. We have a secretary position. Julie, have you been a secretary and how long? And tell us about that position.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been a secretary 2 times in 2 different clubs. I call this role the group memory. I jot down notes during the meetings, regular meetings, and the executive meeting as well. Now, when we have regular meetings, I list who is there, all the members, who are absent, and who are the visitors and dignitaries. And of course, everything else that is going on during the meeting. I just recently learned from somebody that I shouldn't list members absent, but members we missed. We greatly miss those people who are not there. My responsibility is to keep the club officer list up to date. When the sergeant at arms quit, we immediately replaced it, and I immediately put it in the TI website. I'm so sorry that you showed the red sign.
Thank you, Julie. Julie have more to say, but you'll have plenty of time to expand on this executive committee. Now we have a VPPR. Some of you don't know what that means, right? Vice President of Public Relations, Andy C. Paul, tell us about your experience and what is that position to do?
Like Julie, I was honored to serve as VPPR of 2 different clubs. And my role essentially was to be the club's link with the outside world. And what that means, I publicize the club, whether it's keeping the club's website active, posting on the club website to indicate that we're an active and healthy club. And then the second thing I also do is to safeguard the brand, the Toastmasters brand. So on social media, on the website, sticking to the branding guidelines that Toastmasters have put in place for clubs. And how do you do this? You work hand in hand with the other club officers, especially the vice president of membership, to develop a public relations program. You notify the media of anything that's newsworthy in your club through press releases or articles, and as much as you can. I see the red light. 60
Thank you,
seconds is
Andy.
not enough.
Notice these are really thoughtful Toastmasters. They see that red light and they head for the conclusion. And that's to keep us on track so we can give you more and more. Thank you. Our next role is very, very important. It's our Vice President of Membership. And this person is so enthusiastic about membership. Who could it be? George, tell us about the VPM.
You bet I'm enthusiastic about membership. It's kind of like sales and service in a company, because what you, for instance, the VPPR brings you a potential member. And then what you do is talk with that member, find out why they came to Toastmasters, why they are interested, and you work with them to get them to join Toastmasters. Now you got to do 2 things though. You also make sure you're part of service. And service is making sure that you don't lose members. So you want to make sure members are coming along in their education, that they're happy, they're contented with what's going on at Toastmasters, and they are achieving their goals. So you have both things that you have to work at, sales and service. That's so vital.
Awesome. I like that. Sales and service, Vice President of Membership. If you all have questions throughout the session, please put those into the chat. We do have time at the end. So I noticed some questions coming in. Continue to do that. The next role is Vice President of Education, commonly called VPE. I love that role. It's one of my favorites, but it's the hardest to me. You have to be diligent every week. You make the schedule, you call members, you set up schedules where they can sign up for roles. You try to make sure members experience all the roles. So you create some kind of rotation so they're expanding all of their practice and knowledge of the roles and all the skills. You also have to make sure to keep them in pathways. You have to have them connect to the educational program. Have them attend the education training for pathways every month. You can meet with them to help them get started in pathways. Those are crucial things. Also, the dreaded contest. As the VPE, you are there to help coordinate contests. Does that mean you have to do every contest yourself? Absolutely not. You connect it to Pathways and you ask one of your club members to fulfill a project in Pathways and run a contest. Awesome. That's what you're responsible to do. So I encourage you to watch those things, the schedule, get them into Pathways, approve Pathways, which means when a member completes a level, guess what? You have to go in and approve it. You have to make sure that they've completed the project and that they are submitted into Club Central. If you're familiar with all these things, please go to the Pathways training, which is offered twice a month, and you'll get to talk to an expert who can break it down for you. VP is one of my favorites, but it is the heartbeat of the club, I call it, because you keep the wheels turning, you keep people on track. And with that, the final role. This is the role that helps us all. Mr. President, Nick, tell us about the president of your club.
Absolutely. As president, you are the cheerleader of the club, and your enthusiasm and your willingness to follow the Toastmasters plan is going to be reflected in your board. And then that's going to be reflected in your membership. Are you plugged in as president? Are you encouraging other people? As you preside over the meetings, you're going to set the tone, and it's imperative that you be supportive, that you welcome guests, but you also recognize the members that you have as well as the board members. And you're also going to be one of the two representatives on both the area and the district councils for your club. So it's important for you to embody all that is in Toastmasters, that you're doing your projects and that you're cheerleading other folks to do those as well. Go be the best cheerleader you can be for your club. Thank you.
Awesome. Nick, stay with me for a second, because as we've just gone through all of the different roles, what do they combine to? We call that the executive committee.
Absolutely.
Tell us what the purpose of that committee is, and specifically tell us how often you think they should meet.
Absolutely. I think it's important to meet at least monthly if you're meeting every week as a club. And that's what my club does. And as president and as the other role, you should have something to bring to that meeting, something you're working on. We typically follow Robert's Rules of Order. We go around and we just make sure that our conversation is specific to Toastmasters and that we're looking at where we are, but also where we want to be. You've already talked about our club growth plan. We've got to make sure that that's one of the things that we're doing to be a distinguished club, is that we're keeping track of our benchmarks. Right now, my club isn't doing the best job. So I know that it's important for us to reevaluate where we are so we can come in with a home run.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Now, Bobby, do you think once a month is enough? Do you think that's helpful? Has it been beneficial? What has been your experience?
I think once a month is enough, depending on the club. One of the things that we always have to keep in mind is club culture. For example, I'll give you, for my particular club, Uptown Toastmasters, we have 4 people who are covering all 7 officer roles. That's not how it started out, but that's how it is. And we tend to get some of that executive meeting business done at other times, like right after a meeting or before a meeting. So sometimes it may be once a month, sometimes it may be a little less, or it may seem like a little more, depending on the makeup of that executive board and the club itself. It really, again, depends on the makeup of the club.
Thank you, Bobby. Now, George, take that a step further. You're meeting once a month or as often as needed, but what are you covering in the executive committee members? What do you feel is important to cover?
Different things. The president themselves really should generate the agenda and outline what they're going to talk about each and every time. Then each one of those members brings to the meeting their specific roles. For instance, the vice president of education would bring something more like where the members are in their pathways. And the vice president of membership would bring the roster of the members as well as prospective members. vice president of VPPR would bring what they're doing and what they're going to be doing in terms of social media or other ways of bringing people into the club. So and it goes on all the way through the financial, as well as the sergeant at arms, for instance, would make sure that the meeting room is all set and ready to go and reserved. Just things that each one of those officers could bring to the meeting. But the
1 minute.
president would outline that as what to talk about when it comes around.
Awesome. George, thank you. That's very insightful. So Andy, I'm pulling you in and I'm combining some thoughts that George had and some comments Nick made. What if your executive team is not doing well right now? It's mid-year. What are some ideas you can do to pull them back on track and re-engage them for the rest of the year?
There are several instruments of success that Toastmasters have provided clubs. There is the Club Success Plan. There is the DCP, the Distinguished Club Program. There is the Moments of Truth. And across these documents or these instruments, there are 4 things that are common, and it's team. It covers training, education, administration, and membership. The Club Executive Committee needs to address the team, TEAM, at each meeting. What are we doing to meet the training, the education, the administration, and the membership needs so required to achieve the success that we have set out at the beginning of the Toastmasters year? So we need to address the status of each one of those, the moments of truth and the outcomes of that, the Distinguished Club Program, the Club Success Plan, and also any committee reports. If it's a public relations report, if it's a mentoring report for a committee, we need to get reports from that, our membership building at that executive committee meeting.
Wonderful. I know that we're speaking a lot of acronyms. That was one of the comments in the chat. And these are all things you can find more details on the website, of course. And I believe Vicki is also helping, and Rachel, to put some of these acronyms into the chat so you can capture them for later. So thank you, Andy, for that team acronym. So Julie, tell me about your experience on an executive committee and how did it work? And what do you think it should achieve as a committee?
Glad you asked. When I first attended the executive committee meeting, I thought they were speaking a different language with all the acronyms and all the subjects I couldn't relate to, and I was too shy to ask. By now, I am much more knowledgeable. As a matter of fact, when I was preparing for today, guess what? I read the Club Leadership Handbook, and I learned something that I should do during the executive meeting. We should start the meeting reviewing my last meeting's minutes to see what open items we have. I have never done this, but I have already sent an email to my leaders in these 2 teams where I am the secretary, that I will be doing that. So that was very, very educational for me, because I thought I know everything that I need to do as a secretary, but this is an additional thing.
Thank you.
Red sign, back to you.
So Marie, I want you to bring it all home for us. You've heard from our panelists on the executive committee. What do you feel the purpose of that committee is, and what do you think we should be doing right now, mid-year, to achieve our goals going forward?
Thank you, Felicia. I think it all boils down to having successful members in our clubs. All of the tools, all of the plans, all of that boils down to helping our members be successful and achieve their personal goals. If they all achieve their personal goals, the club then will have a successful DCP points and will be able to move forward. I especially enjoy the moments of truth where we allow our club members to speak, and we allow our club members to comment on what they think is going well and what they think needs to be improved. And I would encourage all of our executive committee members to do that, and then also look at the responses and look at what the members think, so that our members can be not only successful, but also happy. And when they're happy, they're having fun, and they're feeling successful, then we will have some great clubs. Thank you, Felicia.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to all the panelists to talk about that executive committee. It is very important to pull all of the officers together to create that team and to produce the results that are needed for the club. We're going to put up a poll right now. Sue, you can go ahead and execute poll number 2. We want to know what you think is important for the executive team. It's going to show up on your screen. Go ahead and put in your results, and you can choose multiple choice items on this one. So choose all the items that apply for you. Thanks. I see some responses coming in. Membership building is so far high on the list. Pathways is making a race for it. But that membership building looks like it is at the top of the list. Give a few more seconds to get some results. Again, you can choose multiple items. And it looks like, again, membership building is most important. That is excellent. All right, so we'll just give it a few more seconds after it slows down, and we'll close this. Okay, perfect. So it looks like membership building is at the top, and we also have that pathways educational goals and that distinguished club program, DCP. Some of you don't really know what it is quite yet. Sometimes it takes about 6 months to understand how it works. And that's what we're going to talk about before this session is over. Thank you, Sue. You can pull down our poll. To the committee, and I'll take whoever wants to address this question. How do you think the executive committee should communicate with the club? How do you think that executive committee should communicate out to the club? Should they say to themselves? I'll take Marie and then George.
Thanks, Felicia. I think that a member of the executive committee, whether it be the president or a designated representative, speak to the club every single meeting. In the club I'm in right now, we have the president open the meeting and close the meeting, whereas it forms consistency. And the beginning, we give announcements, we celebrate our members' achievements, we welcome our guests. At the end of the meeting, we celebrate what happened during the meeting, mention some high points, and then also give all the other club members an opportunity to give their announcements, as well as give our guests the opportunity to give their impressions of the meeting. So I think having that presence every week is vitally important, whether it be the president or another member of the executive team, but having that presence there each week and letting the club know that the executive team is working and is doing things, I think that's the way we communicate with our members the best. Thank you.
You're welcome. Marie, how long have you been a Toastmaster? You haven't told us yet.
I've been a Toastmaster longer than I can count right now. Let me think. 11 or 12 years.
Perfect. We are glad you can't pin it down. Awesome. And how many clubs are you a member of right now?
Right now, 4.
Okay.
That's because I moved and I am straddling divisions right now. So I'm still a member of 4 clubs.
I like that. So you get to see different applications of what you just said in different clubs. So
correct. Yeah.
George, how do you feel the executive committee should communicate out to the club?
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on Marie, because I think that we should be communicating with the club, explaining what the officer roles are. So that way, when June rolls around, we have hands going up saying, yeah, I'll do that, because they know all about it.
Yes.
And secondly, a neat way to do it, and I really feel this way being a salesman, is to do one-on-ones where you can talk to a person, find out what they're all about, see if they're willing, without embarrassing them in front of the whole crowd, but just ask them if they're willing to step forward and expand that envelope that they have. And I think those 2 methods will make it much easier come June.
Awesome. Thank you, George. Thank you, Andy. Some more thoughts. I love it.
I'm in two clubs. One is a larger club where not everyone in the club is part of the executive committee. And I'm in another club that's much, much smaller where you have only 6 people and the roles are kind of doubled up. So, and I'm sure we have a lot of members in this training that represents the extremes, very large, very small. In a very small club, we need to be very transparent when we're planning on what happens in the meeting. And the same needs to be happen in a larger club. In a larger club, we need to communicate what happens at the meeting through the minutes to our membership. In a larger club, whatever decisions will be taken, it needs to be communicated. And sometimes we don't include the general membership in some of the decisions that need to be made at the club level. So sometimes we have to take motions to the club and vote on those motions, include the membership so they know what decisions will be taken. So depends on the size of the club, we communicate accordingly, but do it transparently and involve the membership. Keep everyone in the know.
So Andy, you mean that we don't just become the executive team and take over and control the club? We don't get to do that?
When that happens, we're setting up ourselves for failure, I think.
Yes. Yes. I like the way he simply put it. You will set yourself up for failure. As the executive team, we are there for the club. We are there to help them through the role that we are filling. Now, Julie, I see your hand up. Take us to the next level of that.
I am a member in a club where the president always announces we are going to have an executive committee meeting on such and such day and hour. Any member is welcome to attend. I attended one of their executive committee meetings. I don't have any role in that, but I found it very educational, very much a great experience that I can actually try to incorporate into my clubs.
I love it. What I just heard, Julie, is that the executive committee has a goal to accomplish, but the members can come and participate. They can come and listen and watch and learn for when they're going to be on the board, but also be aware, as Andy spoke, we need to keep everyone in the club aware. So Bobby, tell us your experience or your advice for communicating out to the members.
There, of course, as has been outlined by the other panelists, there are many ways to communicate to the members. Some that have not been mentioned thus far is through the various officers. If Vice President of Education, if there's certain things that truly involve education, they can speak during the business meeting. One of the other parts that has not been highlighted thus far is just speaking to the members outside of the club meeting. That's important, especially for creating that team atmosphere, not just for the executive committee, but for the club as a whole, because that executive committee is just kind of like the forefront. They may be in front, however, in order for the club to be a successful club, it's the entire member body that's necessary. So having those communications outside of club meetings is essential as well.
Awesome. Bobby, you caught my attention with the word atmosphere. Thank you for that. Nick, how does the executive committee affect the culture or the atmosphere or membership building of the club? Do they impact that?
They absolutely do, because they set the standard for the club aptitude and potential. If they are plugged in and they are engaged with pathways and with area events and division events and district events, they're going to model those behaviors for their members. And when people do what they see others do, so if they see those executive officers plugged in, they're going to be plugged in, and it's going to be a natural part of their Toastmasters journey. But if people are reluctant and resistant to new education models, if they still are stuck in, different legacies and whatnot and not ready to join the path, it's one of those things where we need to be mindful. Our attitude affects our clubs.
Absolutely. So let's put the next poll up. So poll number 3. We just want to know what your clubs are doing. How often is that executive committee meeting? And some of you may not even know. And that's okay too, because now we want you to go and start to meet. So go ahead. Thank you, Sue, for the survey. I see a lot of monthlies, awesome quarterlies. I see some nevers. All right, it looks like most clubs are reporting that they are meeting monthly, which is excellent. Some are meeting every other month. Sometimes your club meets less frequently, so every other month makes sense. Quarterly as needed, perfect. All right, thank you. So you can close it whenever the responses stop. Thank you for sharing that information. Okay, so everybody seems to be meeting, and it's a few nevers. Sometimes that happens, but now you have an opportunity to trigger the never and meet in the next couple weeks, hopefully. So I have another question for our panel here. How do you think the executive committee helps the club to reach their goals? How do you think that committee helps them reach their goals? Bobby.
So one of the, I'll say 2 things. One is we mentioned earlier during one of the previous sessions was sending out that member interest survey. So making sure that gets sent out. Of course, you can't control whether it gets filled out, but sending it out and then following up by speaking with the members. You can do that through the club members, the mentors, the education, as well as every one of the officers sharing what's taking place. And then also having that chart, looking at that chart. This is the perfect time, or really January is the perfect time to look at that chart and say, where are we? And if you're a little more advanced, you're probably doing it in November, December, where are we as far as our educational goals? And it's really not about the DCP. It's just as long as those educational goals are completed, then more than likely your members are being successful or at accomplishing what they wish to out of Toastmasters.
Thank you, Bobby. Now, Marie, I want you to continue with that thought, right? How does the club set their goals? Bobby mentioned a member interest survey, but what are some of the tools that the club uses to set their goals?
Well, one of those that we mentioned earlier is the Moments of Truth tool, where we give the Moments of Truth twice a year. It's a program that's presented to the club. Instructions are included on the website. It's very easy to do, but it gives the club members the opportunity to express their ideas, to put their goals out there. Another way we do it is to give progress reports along the way. This is a very timely meeting. As president of one of my clubs, I'm doing a speech this coming Thursday and giving the club a progress report on where are we on our DCPs. And the OCD person that I am, we're going for the golden gavel this year. Where are we? We can do this, and do a pep talk as well as put those statistics out there. A quick little aside, I'm doing it in the engaging humor path, so I'm trying to make it a funny, cartoony presentation so that people don't fall asleep and they laugh and they get the message. So thank you for that.
So you mean the executive team should participate in pathways? George, tell me about that. Do you think that helps the club culture, and how? You're on mute, George. Thank you.
And I just gave you my best point too. I really do, because I was thinking about that earlier, because I think that we, as officers, we need to set the pace, show our team members, the other members of the club, what we can do on our pathways. For instance, I would recommend that all officers this year finish 2 pathways. Or 2 levels, come on, 2 levels, not 2 pathways, but 2 levels. That's doable. And then that way you can talk it up and encourage others in the club to do the same. Tom Peters talks about this in his book, In Search of Excellence, where he talked about you have people who are close to the goal line. You move them a little bit closer to the goal line, and all the people down the field move a little bit closer to the goal line also. We could do that as club officers doing the same thing.
Awesome. Now, Julie, we've talked about moments of truth. We've heard the term DCP. How do you think the executive committee helps with the club success plan?
Well, I will talk about my favorite tool, mentoring program. It is the executive committee's role to make sure that we have a healthy mentoring program in place. If we have a new person, immediately he or she will need a helper.
Right.
This way we can actually identify the members' goals, the opportunities for speeches, the pathway steps, how to go about it. And as a mentor, as an executive committee meeting, you set the example. And I know that I have been a member only 4 years, but I have completed more than 60 speeches. So you can do that. And if a mentee is a little bit slow, the mentor can push the person.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, Andy, I'm going to do a table topics on you. So this is not a question I prepared you for, but I think you can handle it. If you are an officer and you don't know what to do, what should you do?
Fortunately, Toastmasters provide many opportunities and a lot of resources when we are in doubt or have uncertainty. Our first contact should be our area director if we have a question and cannot address it. As an officer, say for example, the president cannot address it. If you are in that committee and your committee can't address it, go to your area director. And if the area director cannot address it, he or she will advance that question further up the chain to the division director and the trio. However, before you get to that point, the Club Leadership Handbook provides answers and FAQs online to the common questions that we have. So before you reach out to someone, just Google that question. And we live in the world now with ChatGPT. Just put that question out there and you'll be surprised the responses that you will get. Just to come back quickly to what the club success plan is, that defines the what, the who, the when, and the how we are going to achieve success. So it's instrumental that the club uses the club's success plan in planning the year.
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Andy. Now, Nick, I love to change directions when I come to you, so thank you for being flexible. So we've talked about the executive committee. We've talked about how we help the club, how we communicate with the club. But Nick, I need to know what I'm going to do next year when I have to encourage other people to be an officer. What do you do, and what does that executive committee, what are their responsibilities to prepare the club for next year?
I think it's always important to be bringing people along with you on your journey. This year, even in a role I appointed an assistant person just months into my journey because they're going to probably be in that role next year. And that's what I would encourage you to do. If anyone has an interest, build a team, especially VPE, build your team, because it's not all having to rest on your shoulders. You have the ability to get that mentorship chair like Toastmasters recommends, as well as people to help you with events and to make sure this meetings are scheduled. There is a collaborative way to be efficient in all positions, and that's what you've got to go for.
I love it. Well, panel, I appreciate all of you. We have a few minutes before we go into our questions and answers. So I want to open it up to the panelists to see if you have any last minute thoughts, ideas that you've thought of for the executive team that you didn't get to share. Anyone? George?
Felicia, I heard a number of years ago, it was distinguished clubs do not fail. And that's why you hear us talking about the DCP program, because we know that if we're distinguished, we're not going to fail. Our club will be successful. And that's why we strive for it. It's just a measuring tool, but it tells us that we're going to be okay. DCP is worth following.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was created to help a club be club strong and successful. There was a purpose behind it. Julie.
During the executive committee meeting, we can address what kind of educational moments the club could use or take good care of some of the education that they didn't have. I didn't say it right. Let me start the sentence all over. Education is very important, and the executive committee can decide what is the subject that we can all address during a meeting. For instance, what is the free toast host? What is the advantage? What is the best way to use pathways? Somebody in another club created a one-page cheat sheet that I find very, very useful, that lists all the pathways, all the levels, all the recommended and electives. I find it so valuable, so we can have educational moments.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julie. Bobby, I saw your hand.
Thank you, Felicia. 3 quick points. First, the DCP, as far as getting those points for your club, starting at the beginning of the year and going to the end, yes, it's a way to track what's going on, but it's also a way to make sure that your members are achieving what they want. I kind of spoke on it earlier, but I didn't feel like I got deep enough into it. But if your members are crossing off those levels, those speeches, those projects, then more than likely they're fulfilling whatever their goal is. A second point is regarding mentors. If an officer doesn't know what to do, one of the things that they can also do is reach out to more experienced members, and those members could be inside the club or in another club. Andy mentioned going to your area director, and one of the things that the area director can do is introduce you to an officer in another club. Maybe it's the president or VP, what have you.
1 minute.
You partner up, and that could be your mentor since it's your first time and that other officer is very experienced.
Absolutely.
I'll leave off the third point.
That's okay. Go ahead, Bobby. I'm going to give you those seconds for the third point.
Sure, thank you. The third point was regarding the moments of truth. When we look at the moments of truth and we think we're looking at our clubs, I always advise to do them early. Just like as area director, I like to go and do my reports early in January because I want to help the club. I don't want to wait until May. And so get those done as soon as you can, earlier in the year, in August, as soon as you can, to see where you want to go. And then in January, or now February, to see how you can change for the remaining 3 or 4 months that you have. Those just, it's really important, and it really does help, because it may help you to retain a member that may have been thinking of leaving.
Awesome. So our panelists have been so wonderful and gracious sharing with you today. We only have so much time. So if somebody says something that captured your attention, you can now reach out to them with a little chat and say, maybe you want to follow up and talk to them more, and you'll meet some people in your breakout rooms as well. Panelists, thank you so much. We are now going to entertain some questions from the audience. So Sue, help me out. I know that we have had a few questions in the chat. If you can get to one, that would be great. And I'll just start with the one that I have a quick response. Someone did ask about, we use PayPal for our financial transactions. I want to check with everybody else to see if there's other ways. Does anybody have any additional tips if you're the treasurer and you're collecting dues. They use PayPal. Any other suggestions or options?
We use Square.
Okay, so we have Square. Awesome. Thank you, Marie. Any other options?
We go for the basics. We use sometimes paper checks. Oh my goodness, dinosaur. And we also, our treasurer or another officer brings their computer to the meeting. And if there are people in person, they can log into Toastmasters and put their credit card right in there without anyone seeing their number. And also if they're online, they can communicate either online or exchange phone numbers and do that same thing at a later time.
Awesome. Membership renewals are important, and you want it to be efficient. You want people to be comfortable and know that it is a smooth process to continue their educational process. All right, any other questions, Sue? Help me out here.
Somebody asked, how is Moments of Truth a tool? They understood what Moments of Truth was, but they didn't quite understand how it could be used as a tool.
Okay, anyone want to entertain that question?
If I may, I see it more. In fact, I really think it is a survey. Are you treated nicely when you first come in the door? Are the meetings well organized? And along that line, 6 different categories of how we are doing as a club. And when you do that survey, then you can see where you need to improve. And that's what Moments of Truth is really all about.
Yes, it is a survey. It's so easy over Zoom, or you can, if you're meeting in person, there's ways to break your club into different groups and have each group answer a different question and then discuss it as a team. There's a lot of different ways to apply it, and someone can do it in your club. Or if you want everybody to have a chance to just pour out, have someone outside your club come and do it. And then people may feel more comfortable with just sharing, and that person can facilitate the conversation as well. It's a way to trigger conversation and change within your club. Julie.
Yes, if you use it as a tool, that means that you end up with action items, and you can assign the action items to people who are willing to do what needs to be done on a voluntary basis. And then you review it. The executive committee can discuss that.
Right. Awesome. All right, Sue, any other questions in the chat?
One of them was, who is responsible to be the webmaster of Toast, aka Free Toast. I'm putting that word in there.
Okay, so Toast Host George, thank you. You saved me. Go right ahead.
Well, I'm going to climb on my soapbox. I really think all club officers should be on Free Toast and as administrators, because at the end of the year, you don't want to have to learn the whole thing fresh. So there's things for the treasurer to be doing on Free Toast. There's things for the VPM to be doing on Free Toast. The VPPR can be doing things, as well as the Vice President of Education on there. All of you probably have some function that you could be doing right now on Free Toast. So I think everyone should be an administrator. There's my soapbox.
Absolutely. When I first started with Free Toast Hosts, one of the first things I did was went and found all the previous members and sent them a little email just to saying, I see you are a previous member of the club. Hope things are well. Stop by and see us sometime. So it allows you to keep contact with members even after they've gone forward. You can go back and invite them to events, open houses, to celebrations, which could inspire them to come back. Or at least they will refer others to your club. If people leave because it's a natural transition, they will meet people and go visit this club. It was great. And that's what you want. Any other questions in the chat, Sue?
I was just curious on the general, how many hours people spend in Toastmasters during the week. It's been an interesting little talk in here, but maybe it's good for the officers.
How many hours do you spend? Bobby, let's start with you.
I'm probably not the best person to ask.
How many clubs are you in, and how many executive positions do you hold?
Well, I'm in 4 clubs, and I'm an officer in 3 of those 4 clubs. But then I'm also an area director, which gives me another couple of clubs that I have some responsibility towards. And then also, as a Toastmaster, once you learn and earn from Toastmasters, not money, but skills, abilities, and having that opportunity to get that experience you want to give back, so you become a leader, and then you just get involved and it's a part of your life, which is why I say I'm probably not the best person to ask, because I put a lot of hours into it.
Thank you for that, Bobby. But I have seen you grow over the years. I'm glad that I was there when you first walked into a club and I see where you are now. Andy, you want to tell us how many hours you?
As a sergeant at arms, I really don't spend any time outside of the meeting because it all happens at a meeting in a virtual world. As a treasurer, a current treasurer, the time I spent is kind of seasonal. It's only twice a year, just before dues renewal and a little after. These are not demanding roles like the other positions. So this year, I really am not spending a whole lot of time, but previously as president and VPE and VPM and VPPR, you can spend maybe 1 or 2 hours outside of the meeting preparing or fulfilling their responsibilities for those.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy.
For each
Anyone
club.
else want to provide a perspective on how long you spend? And then we ask you to join panels and you say yes, and thank you. I appreciate it. So any other questions as we start to
One more
wrap
is,
up?
what makes a DCP?
Okay, anyone want to explain a little bit more about the DCP, Distinguished Club Program? Okay, so I'll just take it from a high level. It is a way for you to check the progress of your club. For a healthy club, there is a formula that Toastmasters came up with, and they put this formula together. And if you complete all the steps in that formula, you are producing a healthy club. That is what the DCP provides you. Now, it doesn't mean that if you don't accomplish all the DCP that you don't have a healthy club, but it has been proven that if you follow that DCP and accomplish those goals, your club is off to a great start and it will continue. The DCP gives you different goals to reach for, pathways. It asks you to have all your members in the club complete levels and pathways. That is a big part of it. It asks you to recruit members. You want to add 4 members, and then you want to add 4 more members. A healthy goal is to get 8 new members in a year. If you get 8 new members every year, that helps you with attrition, people that leave, but it also helps you keep people coming in, learning and growing. It also asks you to go to training. You showed up today. If 4 of your club officers show up for training, that gives you a little check on your DCP. Trained officers gives better results. And then it asks you to just turn in your new officers for next year. So you start recruiting and you get that turned in, which usually the secretary is going to do that, as Julie mentioned earlier, and they'll get that done before June 30th. So those are simple steps that help you create a healthy club, but it gives you a way to measure, is what it does, to measure the success of your club. There will be additional training on that. We've already given a list to our education chair of some of the topics you've mentioned, such as free toast hosts. There may be a training session we offer in more detail and more information on the DCP as well. So thank you for your questions. Any last minute questions, Sue? All right, if we did not get to your questions, don't worry. When you go into the breakout rooms, guess who's going with you? All the panelists who are sitting here, they will all go into a breakout room. So you will end up with one of us and you'll have a little more time to ask your questions because there'll be a smaller group and you can interact, and we're going to ask you to participate and we will allow you to share ideas and to bring up those questions we didn't get a chance to answer here. Sue, I'm just checking in. Any last questions? And
Can I
panel,
make an announcement, Felicia?
go right ahead. Yes.
I just want to let everybody know that I will be taking attendance in the breakout rooms as a backup for the attendance I've already been taking. So make sure you end up in a breakout room so I can get your name.
Awesome. Thank you. That's very, very, very important. Panelists, any last words, parting thoughts that will help our officers here? All right. Wow. Nick, thank you.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say that you are 2/3 of the way there, probably. If you go in 1-year terms, finish strong. Don't allow yourselves to just coast, but finish strong. Encourage your club members to participate in the division contest and then to go to those district gatherings. If you're going, they're probably more willing to go. So set those barriers and remove them right now, and then encourage everyone to engage. Pull them in. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Andy?
Just as a reminder to all club officers, let the club mission, the Toastmasters International, the club mission inform everything that you do, and focus on the membership. There is no club without members.
Right.
And that mission statement provides exactly what we need to be doing to ensure that our members are fulfilled.
Absolutely. Bobby?
I just want to share to all the officers that it's never, ever too late to become an even better leader, no matter how good you are or you think you are, or how good you don't think you are. Reach out to others, become that better leader, even better leader today. Just reach out to someone and take in that information and cultivate it, work it, and you'll see what happens. You'll be not just a better leader, but a better person.
Absolutely.
Felicia, there was a request about somebody speaking to that base +3 requirement for the DCP plan, that there is a minimum measurement on the Distinguished Club plan that whatever number you started your club membership at on July 1st, whatever it was, maybe it was 20, maybe it was 15, maybe it was 12. That is the number that TI uses as a base for showing that your membership grew.
Yes.
So you must increase that membership by 3. Even if sometimes we end up with 20 and then some drop out right away and we end up, so we have to actually kind of make up a little bit of a loss. So we're always recruiting new members. That's what that base number means. And you have to always make sure you look at that as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue, or Vicky, excuse me. So as we conclude, I am so thankful to our panelists. Thank you all very, very, very much. We want to applaud you for one, being willing to share your information, for sticking in there with Toastmasters, and for growing every time you take on a new role. Thank you to our timer, Paula. Thank you, our district director. I appreciate you being our timer and keeping us on track. That is appreciated. And I will just say to all of you, any organization you're a part of, it takes time to learn more about the details. The more you do it, the more you know. When you first walked into a club, all you knew was, I want to practice speaking. And now you've evolved into, you are practicing leadership. So stick with it, learn more. Every time you do a new officer role, you find out more about who you are and where your skills lie and where your skills can grow to.